In a tiny village in the mountains, a baby girl was born. And she was lovely. Oh, she was perfect. Oh, she was beautiful. And they said this little girl must be blessed because as she learnt to walk, flowers blossomed under her feet. Oh, and as she learnt to talk, her first words were va, she. Va, she. Oh, as this little girl tottered around, the birds came and fluttered around her head. Oh, and she loved to explore. She loved to discover the world. As she grew older, as she became a young woman, she would climb higher and higher in the mountains every day. And one day she climbed so high, higher than ever before, that she found herself walking in thick, knee-deep snow. Oh, like a white blanket around her. But still the flowers blossomed under her feet, and still the birds fluttered around her head. She came to the peak of the mountain and saw she wasn't alone, because sitting there on the mountain top was a figure. A handsome figure. Thick black hair and a tiger skin across his back. A snake around his waist. Oh, he was the most beautiful thing that she had ever seen. Va, she. Va, she. Va, she. Va, she. Va, she. Va. Oh, now that she knew who he was, she knew who she was. My love, it's me. But Shiva just sat deep in meditation, gazing out across the horizon. Shiva, my love, my life, it's me, your wife. But still, no response. Shiva, it's me, I've been reborn. Woohoo! Shiva, it's me! Can't you see me? Can't you hear me? Where are you? Lost in some other world. But she knew how to bring him out of his meditation then. She picked one of the flowers that blossomed beneath her feet. Oh, it smelled so sweet. She wafted the flower underneath his nose and... nothing. She had it. She gathered all the birds that fluttered around her head to come close and to sing in sweet harmony. Oh, and they did, and it was the loveliest sound you've ever heard. Oh. But still, nothing. And then she had it. Of course, the way to a man's heart is through his belly. And so she nipped back home and came back with a great big bowl overflowing with juicy gulab jamuns. Oh, those lovely sweet sponge balls dripping in syrup. Oh, delicious. She placed the bowl onto Shiva's lap and... she stood behind him and stroked his icy cold hair. And then, playfully, she placed her hands over his eyes. And as soon as she did so, the world went pitch black. Shiva's third eye opened. There was an ear-shattering explosion as a blast of flames shot out, and Sati felt herself falling. And then she pulled her hands away and there was light. And she landed, and she was surrounded by dust and rubble, and there was no mountain left. And there sat Shiva, still deep in his meditation. This was my mountain. This was my home. You've just destroyed it. You've razed it to the ground. Bring it back," she said. But there was no response. Well, maybe the slightest little hint of a smile at the edge of his lips. This made her even more furious. "You bring it back!" And she ranted, and she raged, and she stamped, and she screamed, but nothing. "Fine! If you can sit there deep in meditation, surrounded by dust and rubble and destruction, then so can I." And she found herself a little spot amongst the dust and the rubble and the destruction. And it took some time for her heart to stop racing, for her thoughts to stop chasing. But when they did, she breathed. And as she breathed, she felt herself become her breath. As she breathed, she felt her spirit soar, as wild and free as the wind, as deep as the oceans. And she breathed. And I don't know how long she sat there for, but what I do know was that the little birds who fluttered around her head, well, they built nests on her shoulder. They laid their eggs. The eggs hatched, they reared their young, they taught them to fly, they flew the nest. And in time, these little ones came back to the same nests and laid their own eggs and reared their own young, and generation after generation. And still she sat there until she heard a voice that called to her across the oceans of time and space. A voice that said, "Miss? Hello? Miss, yoo-hoo, anybody home?" And she refocused her eyes and she looked and she saw a boy standing there, a boy with bare feet and dirty legs and a tattered old shirt. And the boy said, "Miss, who are you?" And she just said, "Well, I am the wind, and I am the sea, and I am the sun." "Yeah, but who are you really?" he said. She saw then her body and the dust and the destruction and the rubble, and then she remembered everything. "I am Parvati." "And who is Parvati?" "Parvati is... no. Parvati was once the wife of Shiva, the great destroyer." "What, isn't any more?" "No. I once believed that what he told me was true, that from death comes life, from destruction comes creation. But now look, I see that destruction is his world. And what use is a god if all he can do is destroy?" "Well, I see what you're saying, but what if this god could also create?" "Well, this would be a very different story indeed, but it's not, is it? So leave me in peace. Now I'm trying to meditate." But the little boy would not leave her in peace. Instead, he began to dance. And as he danced, with every step he took, he grew taller. With every step he took, he grew broader and older, and a tiger skin appeared over his shoulders, a snake around his waist, thick, black, matted hair. Shiva lifted Parvati to her feet, and the two of them together danced. And as they danced, the mountain beneath them remembered its form and reassembled piece by piece until they were dancing on the tallest mountain of all. And as they danced, the constellations span around them. And as they danced, the sun and the moon rose above their heads. And as they danced, the great rivers of the world flowed from their hair. And as they danced, the whole of the universe danced with them. And as far as I know, Shiva and Parvati are still dancing on that mountain to this very day. And I hope that you, wherever you are dancing